Hello everyone, Nyanstar here, and welcome to the hardest year of my life. With my abusive mother's cancer taking a turn for the worse, being kicked out of my house and living in a motel, and my quickly worsening mental health, I also had to go to school. Starting things off, I had one more scheduling issue. I was supposed to be in advanced band this year, but my first schedule had me in intermediate band. I managed to get this fixed pretty quickly though. My schedule was choir, math, social studies, band, English, and science. I hadn't signed up for choir, but there wasn't any other elective I wanted, so I just stuck with it. But the next semester, the science teacher left, so my schedule changed again. So it ended up science, choir, social studies, band, English, and math. I still had gifted English and social studies. In English, we got to read things like Kafka's Metamorphosis and The Fall of the House of Usher. With that last one, we got to build gingerbread houses. I brought mine home and ate the whole thing in one sitting. Stomachache was killer. Also, as a fun fact, when we did our reading test, I scored a whopping 666. I mentioned my friend Jeff in my 6th grade video. He ended up going to a different school for 7th, but he came back this year. He came back with a new name and updated pronouns. And while it was confusing at the time, he was my friend, so I didn't mind at all. He was in my band class, my science class in semester 2, and my English class. I don't think he was in the gifted social studies, though. He was moved into gifted English a couple months into the year. He wasn't the best at doing his homework, and considering my circumstances, I wasn't either. But I always did the monthly reading logs. We'd read a book and fill in a sheet about it. One month, Jeff's grades were really getting low, and he hadn't read a book that month. So to help my friend, I let him copy off my homework. We just said we read the same book, which I think was The Picture of Dorian Gray. A couple weeks later, Miss R pulled us aside after class. Jeff said that he knew his grades were bad, but Miss R cut us off by placing our reading logs on the table. I still feel the dread in my stomach just thinking about this. She yelled at us about how disappointed she was at us. She said my sick and dying mother would be upset at me. I told her I just wanted to help a friend, but she turned on Jeff for manipulating me. She let us go, and I didn't exactly have the best coping mechanism afterward. But Jeff was also in my band class. The band teacher, Mr. Yu, left in the middle of 7th grade. He was replaced by Mr. War, because he declared war on us. He came into our band class, who were mourning Mr. Yu. He wasn't dead, we just missed him, and declared that we were doing everything wrong. I want to make a whole video about band class, so I'll hold off on my vitriol. Most of it, at least. But Mr. War didn't like us in particular. If we were doing something that the whole class was doing, we'd be the ones singled out. He wouldn't let us practice in class, even though we couldn't practice at home, given our home lives. Once Jeff skinned his knee, and when he said he was hurt, Mr. War said good. And when we told the other kids what he said, they responded with, "You're lying just because you don't like him." That still pisses me off all these years later. But shitty band instructors aside, I did enjoy band. Like on long days when we were allowed to run around outside. Towards the end of the year, we got to go on a trip to a fancy high school to compete. They had our band sit in a room, play a song, and just tour around the school. Unfortunately, Jeff ended up losing their jacket in playing class, and Mr. Ward didn't let him go get it. It was really important to him. I also went on a trip before this, but for choir. That one was much better, because it was in a proper theater, and we got to have a break where we bought our own pizza at Starbucks. Needless to say, the band trip was very disappointing afterwards. Choir was my other elective for the year. I shared first period with A, and we had a lot of fun. One time we had to do fake commercials, and ours had the gay agenda in it. Luckily all the kids in class were supportive. First period was very chill, and had the best singers. But if you've been paying attention, maybe you remember that my schedule was rearranged halfway through the year, and I was moved into Period 2 choir. There was a rivalry between the two choir classes. Period 2 was rowdy, unfocused, and didn't sound very good, so being switched actually hurt. I was going through enough, man. And once the choir teacher mentioned something LGBTQ+ related, and the class erupted in disgust, while I was sitting behind them with a lanyard full of pride pins. Now I'd like to detour to a person I knew. I met this girl I'll call Jazz in 7th grade. We kinda knew each other, but then we went on a field trip where we got close. It was like a museum, I think. We kept making jokes and played on this playground they had. When we got to 8th grade, we ended up in the same math class. We were placed next to each other and got closer. I definitely considered her a friend. but there were things about her that made me pause. If you haven't seen the last 2 school stories, I was in this friend group called the Nekomatas. We were best friends. But I think Jazz was jealous of this. She was in the after-school band with B, which we called Jazz Band, so that's why I called her that. But she hated B. She would constantly make fun of her, even when I asked her to stop. My breaking point came when I asked if she wanted to join our LGBTQ+ friendly club, and she reacted very negatively to the idea. B and I broke things off with her the next day. But that wasn't the end of Jazz, oh no. She used to tell me how shallow girls were for ditching their nerdy friends to become popular. But guess what she did when we stopped talking to her? She'd talk shit about us to any popular kid she could talk to. She'd even say things like that to our mutual friends, who got very frosty with us afterward. My cat Boo had died during the summer, and she'd loudly mock me about that from across the classroom. And when we shared a math class, she'd write a story about how we betrayed her. And yes, I totally looked over her shoulder to read it. I loved reading about how she wished we died so we'd never mess with her again. And when I moved math classes, she also got moved to my new math class. One day, she brought a knife to school and threatened to stab the boy who wouldn't go out with her. That boy was on top of the list of people she didn't like, and B and I were also on that list. And she only got 2 days in school suspension. Thanks school, I feel real safe. Someone else was also in both my math classes, and that was Key, who I talked about last time. We mostly goofed off when we were in the computer lab. We came up with this pitch for an adult cartoon, like Simpsons or Family Guy. It was about this pink stuffed teddy bear named Manly Bear. He had a cutesy voice, but he was a mean drunk. He'd go on misadventures with his stoic bartender, Mary. We'd voice act and write scripts in the middle of class. We never did anything with it, though. We largely stopped talking when the next semester rolled over. Our school never really did anything fun, except for the 8th grade dance. Every year, the 8th graders got to have a special dance. Our gay club also threw a dance for Valentine's Day, but it wasn't as big. So on May 18th, we went to a tropical-themed dance party, complete with dinner. I actually came up with Mariah at this dance while listening to Havana. The whole squad was here, dancing together. I remember dancing with V, my future girlfriend, while Jazz looked at us with disgust. But for once, I didn't care what anyone thought. We all took a picture together, the only one I have of us all together. I won't show it for privacy reasons, but I still treasure it. We went to a graduation ceremony for middle school, and B, V, and I went together, and had a picture in our nice clothes. We got a certificate and everything. With middle school finished, it was time to go to high school. So subscribe if you want to join us for next time. Have a great rest of your day. Bye!